Dying Light is terrifying. It feels like every 10 seconds something's right behind you about to catch you. Parkour allows us to get away from most of these enemies with ease. So what if we couldn't use parkour? This seemingly simple challenge has already proven to be way harder than I had ever imagined. The amount of volatiles that were breathing down my neck in the first night mission was deafening, and I couldn't even jump away. Now there are obviously some levels that require the player to use parkour, and indeed, parkour has a few different definitions, some stricter than others, so we're going to need to set the following few rules to define this challenge. If we can, we have to stay on the ground. This means no using rooftops to avoid enemies. No grappling hook or developer weapons. No agility skills. Whilst I will level it up when forced to use parkour, I can't spend any of the skill points, effectively making it redundant for this challenge. If absolutely required to use parkour to proceed, then I must find the least demanding route. Oh, and of course, the whole thing will be a nightmare mode. This means that if you think any part was unreasonable, and there was an alternate, viable route that could have been taken, then say it in the comments below, and if enough people agree, I'll have to redo that part. I'll be honest, I have no idea if this will be possible. I'm going to have to come up with some pretty wild strategies for some of the later missions. But here we go. Can you beat Dying Light without parkour? So for the rare few who don't know the story, or simply weren't paying attention, we're a mercenary who's been hired by the GRE to look for this guy. That's right, we accepted money to go into a known zombie-infested city. In other words, we're a pretty average guy. The issue is, they chose us to
save mankind from a disaster of unprecedented proportions.
And you can tell they picked the wrong person immediately, because we spend more time staring at the scenery than looking where we're landing. I mean, sure, it's picturesque, but if you knew you were about to drop into a city overrun by zombies, would you really spend all this time admiring the scenery? Or would you be focused on landing in a safe place? And it's not like there aren't plenty of places to land. Instead, we take one more look around before realising this isn't a great place to land. We proceed to get the shit beaten out of us by bandits who probably believed from our sightseeing that we were a billionaire on a new thrill experience. We're then immediately bitten by the first zombie we see. Money well spent, GRE. Fortunately, we're saved by 2 people and taken to safety. But not before one of our saviours gets eaten alive in front of his girlfriend. Totally didn't say sister first time. And we black out from a tough first minute of Haran. Surely it can't get any worse than this. We wake to kids screaming, an angry man scolding us, and the boss demanding an audience.
Boss.
Turns out things aren't great here either, and currently someone is trapped on the 13th floor, but we're not given any further details.
You little shit.
What we do know, though, is none of them seem to be doing anything about it. So we decide to take matters into our own hands and head down. Trapped person or not, we have to make sure our priorities are straight. So after a quick call to the GRE to let them know we're alive and ensure their check cleared,
I lost my radio for a while. Don't worry.
time to help out. Now I'll be honest, at this point I was scared. I mean, what could be down here on the 13th floor that all these armed guards, scouts, and even bomb-crazy Raheem were too scared to deal with? And that's when I saw it. Someone was pounding on an occupied bathroom door. I mean, you have no respect for privacy. So I did what anyone would do in that situation. I decapitated him with a blunt instrument. Turned out that he was this guy's brother, which made me even more concerned as to why he was trying to break in. It may have something to do with the seemingly glowing bathwater. Anyway, he'd gotten injured trying to get away, and I knew that if I could really quickly patch up his arm, everyone would forgive me for scaring the kids. Aware of his critical condition, I ran around looting everything I came across. All whilst looking for a suitable bandage, of course. Unfortunately, the bandage was just a single sheet of toilet paper. But at least my choice seemed to impress one of the Bogdanov twins. We returned to a shocked Raheem to let him know that we just saved the tower from that Avengers level threat.
Piece of cake. What else you got for me?
Turns out he has our first real challenge for the run, an obstacle course. Unfortunately, this is one where Rule 4 applies. As for most of it, there's no way to avoid parkour. We do still need to find the easiest route.
Jesus Christ!
I run a lap around the building, looking for the easiest ascent. In the end, I settle for this single jump. I then have to cross this crane. I don't know if I'm missing something here, but it just came to me. How did Rahim get to the cockpit when there's clearly no other way across? I mean, he operated it just a second ago, and it wasn't connecting the two towers. That means he either went next door and climbed up to the roof, or the crane was already here, and he just moved it away so he could move it back to show off once we arrived. Also, did you know that you could climb to the top of the crane, get this collectible, and then make this massive jump? That's not for this run, though. Anyway, we jump onto these bags of nice, soft household waste.
Holy shit!
We then need to get up here, so I take the shortest jump. I could have dropped down and climbed up the other side, but I figured I'd probably try to make this jump in real life and grab a bar if I needed it, as opposed to trying to pull myself all the way up. So I jumped it.
Not bad for a noob.
This seemed the best spot to jump up, as you could use your foot on the girder below to push, and then I like to imagine Crane having to crouch and just hop along here. I looked around, but couldn't seem to find an alternate route here. So I had to follow the signpost course, albeit without much grace.
That's my favorite. Okay, time for the real test.
And finally here, I had to do the same thing. As there wasn't any easy way to get up except shimmying along and no way to get across the gap without jumping.
Okay, that's enough.
After a few unavoidable jump ups to get back onto the crane, we're sorted.
Crane?
At least that was until we have a seizure 40 stories up,
Something went wrong.
and through what can only be described as divine intervention, we didn't fall off. After making it across, I dropped down at the same place I found earlier. For these, I like to imagine Crane first sitting and then just hopping down.
Raheem, what the fuck was that?
Swearing doesn't make you cool.
We're told that we need to get a shot of Antizin from Dr. Zera to avoid turning, and he's located outside the tower. Means we're going to need to visit the lovely quartermaster to get equipped.
I'm not gonna bother learning your name till you've survived a few days, but here, this is for you.
Now we're ready to finally step foot outside into wonderful Haran, where we quickly learn two things. Firstly, flaming cars aren't just an obstacle for zombies, since we can't climb to get around most of them. This may not seem important, but when something like this limits your routes, and all you can do is stay on the floor, it's going to become particularly difficult later on in the cities or in the bridge missions. Secondly, and more importantly, we have absolutely no stamina. We do absolutely no damage to zombies, and yet have no choice but to stay mostly on their level. Dr. Zera is in a state-of-the-art lab, with very secure, sturdy walls guarding him. Problem is, those walls are all 2 floors up, and there's no door. It means I need to find a way in. So I do a loop around the facility, get into a scrap with the locals, loot a bit while I'm going, but in the end, I have to settle for this jump to get in. Not perfect, but there was no easier one I could find. I interrupt what looks like Morgan Freeman's fat brother, only to realise it's the Doctor. I should have known from the comically large icons on his desktop. He gives me a shot of Antizin and sends me on my way so he can get back to typing on Windows 2000's WordPad. So I decide to go and speak to the leader of this football court?
Keep it fast.
Seems he's not very friendly either.
All right, shut up and pay attention.
He asked me to set up some traps so the actual tower boss and others can secure some airdrops. So I head out the easiest possible way and get to work. First trap's easy, as it's back where we were. But no sooner have we armed it, that we're asked to help a trapped survivor. Just getting to this person while sticking to the floor proved to be tough, especially when we have to get past a horde of them loitering around on the street. After some further looting, grinding some fighting XP, and then losing most of it, time to find the easiest way into this place. Much like the last one, I have to loop around, but luckily we find an easy half-broken wall to hop over. There's a couple zombies inside, so it's time to put my rusty, mostly broken pipe to work. At this point, I should mention that whilst I know I can go and find some pretty powerful non-dev weapons early on, like the pistol that someone used to unalive themselves, I'm opting not to. Although I don't want to give myself an unfair advantage. As ridiculous as that does sound in this handicapped run. Maybe I shouldn't have taken all those detours getting here though, because it turns out that he's already been turned.
Shit. All right.
And whilst his health is hard capped regardless of difficulty, making him easy to kill, he's the introduction of a new threat that's going to be very prevalent during this playthrough. Virals.
Okay, it's done. Fuck.
They're the next fastest infected after volatiles. But they're a lot more plentiful and don't mind the sun. This means that they'll be our most common problem, as we will have to try and lose groups of them on the ground, which is very tough when they can run faster than you and for longer.
You had no choice. He wasn't human anymore. Now hurry. You still need to turn on the lights. That's the only way to make this place safe at night.
After restoring the power, the GRE want to cool.
Ah, shit.
And due to the horrific phone service here, we have to climb to the top of this 3-story building just to answer. Fortunately, there seems to be a relatively straightforward path to take, where if we stand on a few elevated levels, we can make the climb ups feasible. With the reasoning for the last climb here being that you'd use the grated window as a foothold.
Crane here.
After telling the GRE about Dr. Zera's computer skills, they agree that he isn't in much danger of finding a cure.
But if he does, we want to see it.
Let's back down the building to continue arming the traps. Firecrackers are another tool that I tend to forget I even have beyond this introduction. However, again, these little distractions will definitely prove to be valuable throughout this run.
Keep on like that, you just might make it.
The maps are made with parkour in mind, so not being able slows us down. We did manage to evade the infected on our way to the next trap. Well, most of them at least. The next trap's off the ground, and trying to find an easy way up proves to be surprisingly difficult. As whilst I do realise that it'd be easier to get onto the small building next to it, and then cross on the platform, there really isn't an easy way onto it. At least, that is until I find this small concrete post that I reason could be used to hoist us up onto the roof. You can tell I like to make this harder than it needs to be, because up until this point, I hadn't even realised that I was still using my now completely broken starting pipe. So we activate the trap, meet a zombie that's just had enough, then discover a piece of Crane's lore I really didn't need to know. Anyway, time to get to the next trap. After the usual loop around, I settle for this single level jump. Now we reach the hardest trap, which, unfortunately, requires a fair amount of parkour. And all I can do is control how we get onto the roof, which I achieve with a few pull-ups and small jumps. However, this last unavoidable jump, only a maniac would try. The final one is only a single train carriage high, but much like when I was a kid and tried to full auto the Euclid C Finder with a mod, we cause a blackout. In order to turn the power back on, we need to take on an enemy that I've been dreading. So I craft all the medkits I can. Yeah, medkits, that's right. Molotovs would have been so much smarter. We find an easy fence to hop over, and then get greeted by this absolute unit.
Fuck, what's this?
Going into this, I had the foolish intention of simply going toe-to-toe and clubbing him to death. I even got into quite a good rhythm with it. However, one wrong step, and it would all be over. After this swing, however, I realised he could do the hard work for me and blow himself up. So I tried again, until eventually I did it. At least I thought I had, until he stamped the flames out and kept coming. Now, it wasn't until I watched this back that I realised it was actually me that hit the canister here. So doing this dance was completely unnecessary, as I could have just hit the thing myself and finished this in half the time. And yes, I am aware this whole fight is skippable, but that just doesn't seem in the spirit of the challenge. So I loot my spoils, then head over and turn the power back on before Spike can nag anymore. At this point, it's almost night, and I'm not ready for that. So we run through the streets, narrowly avoiding obstacles that were supposed to be for the zombies, until we make it back to the safety of the place we recently liberated. We're about to head in for the night, and we catch some degenerate sniffing the ledge we were just on. Anyway, best to sleep before the real freaks come out. When I started this, I didn't quite realise just how hard it would be. You see, I thought this would be a more combat-focused run, where I'd be getting very familiar with the dodge, grapple, and escape mechanic, as well as making use of the passive health regen. At least that was until I opened up the skill menu and was reminded that all of those are locked behind the agility tab, a tab that we've disallowed for this challenge. So we return to Spike to let him know the good news, and it seems he's overcome his Java programmer's block.
First of all, you did great out there.
Because his mood has drastically improved. He's even giving us useful items.
Use a UV flashlight and a remote control. You run up on a volatile, give him a face full of UV, or lead him into a trap.
Apparently Brecken's mission still failed, and Jade has called all scouts in immediately. And even though we literally passed the tower to come here, Spike tells us we need to get to that meeting ASAP. So we decide to have the shortest call with the GRE.
I'm about to have a meeting with the tower's leader.
Acknowledged. Confirm his identity and contact us immediately.
Before heading up the tower. Good to see that we're in safe hands. Jade barges past us, tells us to follow her lead, and then calls us out on our lack of confidence.
Act confident.
Sounds like one of my relationships.
Right, Crane?
Then in an attempt to impress her, we volunteer to try and get some antizin.
Crane will go. He'll be happy to.
Jesus.
That seemed to go well. The Bogdanov twin tells me that Brecken desperately needs some anti-seizure medication. But this gets me thinking. I don't even need to try to impress Jade if I'm her only option. So it would be a real shame if the seizures took care of the if I never found that medication. GRE want another update, but for some reason, we can almost never reuse the same building to call them from. They said that this radio can get through the block they put in place, but I feel like I'm trying to get a decent 5G connection with an O2 SIM. Also, gotta love the occasional fire immune zombie.
Crane here.
We figure out that Rise is our guy. Then, we're told to let them know if we find any antizin. So we head back down the way we came, try to start looting, but we're interrupted by two virals. The combat in Dying Light is bizarre. Sometimes you get lucky and you're able to kill one in seconds. Then others, like the second guy here, feel almost like a mini-boss. If anyone can explain the randomness of it, then leave a comment to help me understand. Second time this playthrough I've relied on fire to take care of a tough enemy. We continue looting, finding a nice blue rarity hammer and some other valuables. I didn't realise how many objectives are always on top of buildings. It seems that every fetch or activate quest is at least 2 stories high, which leaves me with the headache of trying to figure out the easiest route up. Anyway, we find a whole lot of nothing in the first crate, but we do spot a plane making a couple drops. And Jade wants us to rooftop parkour our way there ASAP. So to get out of this, we lie and fake an injury so as to take the ground plane. But this somehow results in Rise men getting there first. So Jade insists I stay on the floor to beat them to the second one, as it's about to be night. But I quickly remind her that, in Turkey, whilst there aren't any explicit bans on parkour, Law number 5366 empowers municipalities to designate areas for redevelopment, which would mean rooftops would be recognised as restricted spaces, and Haran is definitely an area in need of redevelopment. Instead of 3 of Rye's men, I find 3 biting. Easy, right? Especially with the new hammer. No. I end up spending several minutes just trying to put these normal biters down. This confirms something we all knew for the next one. Running is my only option, as I'm definitely not fighting my way through. So here comes the moment we've all been waiting for. I knew that the next 30 seconds were vital, as it's possible to softlock the run here if you die in the wrong place. So I put some time planning where I was going to run. I plotted a path that would send me through some alleys, join me onto the main road, and finally, up the stairs to the tower. This was the shortest route that avoided several volatile spawn points, and most importantly, avoided parkour. The issue was, there still were a lot of spawn points of volatiles along this path, and that meant I was going to need to go right through them. But now, all I had to do was remember my route.
There's no answers in here.
Done? Fuck! Alright, get back here and be careful. The nightmares are awake. Don't let them see you.
Oh, shit. They must have heard me.
Okay, yeah, that didn't go to plan. Turns out, planning kind of goes out the window when you're clenching for the whole chase. Although it looked like a complete failure, this was actually a pretty ideal place to have died, as I had managed to lead most of the volatiles away from the respawn point, meaning by the time I get back there, they should have dissipated, clearing the area so I can essentially go directly to the tower. I had also triggered most of the spawn points along that path, so I realised it would actually be safer for me to retrace my steps. However, they were still out there roaming, and I hadn't planned this new route, so was unsure how best to go once I got back to my body. This mission is also coded such that as soon as you leave a safe zone, all the volatiles in your immediate vicinity are alerted, meaning exiting via sneaking is out of the question. This is how I got spawn camped and softlocked in my previous attempt, so armed knowing I had to ration my stamina better and keep a level head, it was time to try this again. Only this time, if I failed, there would be more volatiles on the map, and my risk of softlocking would increase, potentially dooming this run forever. We survived our first proper night in Haran. We minimised the parts that required parkour, and other than that, we limited ourselves to running and a couple of waist-high vaults. Though I must say, I'm not sure what happened near to where I died the first time. There was clearly a volatile that jumped down and would have been looking right at me. And then I even hear him running at or in my direction. He must have decided to cut me a break because when I look back, he wasn't there. Now, whilst I expect Crane to have looked something like Don from 28 Weeks Later whilst running, I'm under no illusion that by the time we get to the end of this playthrough, this mission will have seemed like a cakewalk. But that's it for part 1. Please like and subscribe and let me know if you'd like to see any more of this. I'd love to try and complete this playthrough. Well, complete may be an ambitious statement.